everybody. Welcome into the Buffalo Stampede. It's a spring football edition. Neil Welk of CUBuffs.com. I'm voice of the Buffs, Mark Johnson. This is the week we've been waiting for. On Saturday, it's a spring football showcase presented by UC Health at Folsom Field at 12 noon. You can feel the energy in the air.
Well, you know, it's going to be fun, Mark. First time people get a look at Mel Tucker's team publicly out on the field scrimmaging, and be fun to see what they've been doing, working on.
So far, I think the energy around this camp has been fantastic. You've heard a lot about it. You've read a lot about it with Neil Stuff at CUBuffs.com. There's an intensity. There's a pacing to this camp. I think that's a little bit different.
Yeah, there's a sense of urgency, and it's not just a one-day deal or a two-day deal. It has been since they opened spring ball that there's been a sense of urgency. Make use of every minute. There's no time wasted out here, and I think of all the things that have been that have impressed me is it's been that the intensity, no wasted time, and just a sense of urgency that they are always on the move, always doing things. And as Mel says, coaching is teaching, and they're doing a lot of teaching.
And I think part of that is kind of a two-pronged thing. One is changing the culture and making sure that this roster understands what he's looking for. And the second part has been implementation.
Yeah, exactly. And they kind of go hand in hand. Is, you know, the culture of teaching, how they're doing it, and what they want to get done with the new system, new offense, new defense, some new special team stuff. And then how they want to do that, how quickly they want to work. And when you're talking about tempo, that means from the minute second the ball is snapped to the very end of the play, you move until the play is over.
You know, I think the one thing that we didn't know about Mel Tucker, and nobody knows, what is he going to be like as a head coach? Yes, he did have that interim stint in the NFL, but as a college head coach, so far it's been very hands-on. You want to talk about coaching and teaching, he's active all the time in the field.
I think the guy runs more than any of the players do in practice. He's always on the move. He's always looking at the offense, the defense, and running up to players after every play, coaching and helping them. And I think that rubs off on players when they see the coaches moving like that. And it's not just Mel, it's Tyson Summers, it's, you know, Jay Johnson, Jimmy Brumbaugh, all those guys. That rubs off on players, and they react accordingly.
Well, what do you think we've seen? Let's start on the offensive side of the ball. I guess it's always the good news when you got a veteran quarterback, you got a potential third-year starting quarterback, a fifth-year player in Steven Montez. I think he's taken to this system, and you and I have talked, our broadcast partner Gary Barnett, no less authority than that, thinks this could be a good offensive system for Steven.
It is. It's a good system for Steven because it's not all on his shoulders. It's more of a pro set system. It will help him get ready for the next level and have a chance to play in the NFL. But it's also a system where it doesn't all rest on Steven. He's going to have a running game. He's got some tight ends he can use, a lot of different things there, a lot of different schemes and sets. I talked to Jay Johnson just last weekend. Thinks he's feeling very, much more comfortable with it. Steven is, and all the quarterbacks I think have adapted to it and are working well with it.
Yeah, there's a level of comfort when you talk to Steven. In fact, we caught up with the quarterback of the Buffaloes just a short time ago.
Yes, I'm very excited about the system. This system is a lot more is done in the run game at the line of scrimmage instead of just being called left or right. So it's a lot of it is on us, and we're out there running the show. We're picking what direction to run the play. And if we're getting any blitz or any of that stuff, we're checking out of it. So, I mean, it's good. It'll definitely prepare me for the next level and what I got upcoming. I mean, the X's and O's pretty much stay the same no matter where you go. I think the terminology is really all that changes because, I mean, we're still running inside zone, still running outside zone, still running gap, power, all those basic stuff. We're still running the same route concepts that we ran last year. They're just called something different. And some of them are even called the same thing still. Yeah, I mean, quarterback's always a leadership role, and, I mean, you always got to play that part for sure. I mean, I think I've always kind of played that part here and in high school, and, I mean, even in Pop Warner when I was playing different sports and stuff. But, I mean, this year even more, being a senior quarterback, I mean, I think a lot more is expected of you, and, I mean, I want that kind of pressure and just kind of those expectations that people have for me. So, I mean, I'm going to try to live up to them, and I'm going to do my best.
Well, Steven Montez is always confident. You know, when you look at that quarterback room right now, there's a lot of talent on that group, I think. It appears anyway, as you and I stand here on the sidelines, that maybe there's been a change to that number 2 position.
Yeah, it does, and I think it's at least, if nothing else, it's a dead heat between Tyler Lytle and Sam Neuer, and I think Tyler has been getting more and more snaps with the number 2. Sam is still getting them, but that's going to be something that goes into fall camp, I believe, that it will be decided when they get to fall camp who that number 2 is.
Well, the offensive line is going to have to set the tone for this football team and every football team in America. I know you've talked a lot with the offensive staff about that line a little bit. They've been trying a lot of combinations throughout this camp.
Yeah, they have. They've been moving guys around. I think very early in camp they moved Timmy Lynott, and he's moved into the center position. Colby Purcell out to guard. I think they like Tim Lynott at center, and that's where he's been for most of spring ball now. Purcell playing at guard, and they're trying a lot of other combinations in there as well. I mean, Jack Shutak is playing guard and tackle. Will Sherman is playing outside on the tackle. They've gotten Frank Phillip in at some tackle. They've gotten some of the young guys. Casey Roddick has been playing some guard, so they're getting some young guys in there. Austin Johnson, who's a true freshman, just came on campus this semester, has been lining up and playing with the 1s and 2s a little bit. So they're trying a lot of combinations, a lot of different people, and they want to find one that's going to work.
Will Sherman, I think we saw flashes last year when he got a chance to start for the Colorado Buffaloes in 2018. He might be the most talented offensive lineman we've got right now here at CU.
He is. He's a big kid who's put on some weight. He's up well above 300 pounds
Great
now.
feet.
Great feet.
Yeah.
Really knows how to move. As one of the coaches was telling me the other day, he can make a mistake and correct it and not get beat. And that's very hard for an offensive lineman to do. So Will, as he improves his technique, is going to be a guy that's a next level player here.
You know, Neil mentioned Tim Lynott just a moment ago. He's been a staple inside, primarily as a guard during his time here at CU. As Neil mentioned, he's been running with the 1s at center, and we caught up with him about that position change.
Oh yeah, it's a lot more communicating than it was last year. We're learning a whole new offense. So I'm trying to help these young guys out too. I'm trying to make calls for them and try to make sure they're doing the right thing. So we don't get yelled at by Cap and look bad on the field. We're trying to make the best opportunity for each of these guys to do the right thing and make sure they're making the right blocks.
What's it like playing for Coach Cap? He's a pretty intense guy, isn't he?
Yeah, he's old school. He's like my high school coach. I love it. It's one of those guys they're always yelling. Don't really have a filter sometimes, but it's great. It's one of those things that I'm so used to, especially in high school, coming from my old coach, Coach McPhee, and I'm just so used to that, so I love it. It's great.
Good to hear from the big offensive lineman from the Denver metro area. How about that wide receiving core, though? There is no deeper position, I think, in this football team than that wide receiver room right now. And, of course, Laviska Shenault's the name guy. He's been recovering from a couple of surgeries, actually, and so we haven't seen a lot of him. But, my goodness, the depth in that position is overwhelming.
If there's anything that's a positive of Viska not being able to practice this spring is it's got a lot of the young guys out there. One of those guys, Dimitri Stanley, has just had a heck of a camp. Daniel Arias is playing a lot. KD Nixon is showing his stuff. And then the guy that's been impressive to me has been Tony Brown. Just a very steady Eddie guy. He's a senior out there making catches every day in practice, just doing all the right things. But that wide receiver core, you're right, Mark, there's a lot of guys. Maurice Bell, another guy that's been showing up. So there's a lot of depth out there, a lot of guys making plays, and that's another spot. Going into fall camp, it will be very interesting to see who emerges as the starters there.
Yeah, well, one we know is going to be Laviska, of course, one of the top receivers in America. Dimitri Stanley, keep an eye on him. His father was a great player for the Colorado Buffaloes, and he's turning into a great player for the Colorado Buffaloes.
Getting stronger, getting faster, learning the plays and all that. And as the camp progresses, the team progresses with it, so it's going real well. We take pride in all the competition we have in the wide receiver room. We joke around about it with the coaches. Whatever gets us better, gets us better. I just learned that the game is much faster at this level, much more physical at this level, and with Coach Tucker, he takes pride in that physicality, and that's kind of what you see in all of our practices. I think he's definitely getting me even more prepared for this level and hopefully the next.
Now, Darren Chiaverini says about Dimitri Stanley, he's got great ball skills, a fantastic athlete for the Buffs. Now on to the tight ends. I know if you've been watching CU football for the last decade, you forgot the position actually existed. That's not the case anymore. There are 3 or 4 of them out there, and they're going to be used.
They are. They're running a lot of sets with almost every play has at least one tight end on the field. A lot of times they're running 2, and they're running what they call the sniffer, which is the guy that lines up behind the tackle in the backfield, and then they're lining the guys up out in the slot. They're lining them up in line, using a lot of 2 tight end sets. Does 2 things. Number 1, it helps the run game, helps them get an extra blocker in there for the run game. Also makes that linebacker and safety have to respect those guys coming out for the pass game. They can't cheat up on the run as much, so that gives them just a little bit more there. And those guys are big targets. When you're talking Jalen Harris, when you're talking Brady Russell, when you're talking Darian Jones, and even Bo Bishrat coming into that mix now, those guys are big targets, and they're wonderful outlets for the quarterback. He looks across the line and sees that 6'5" guy standing there. He can throw it to him.
Yeah, Bo Bishrat, that was some news made during spring camp, and the fact that he moved from running back to tight end. But the guy that's really, I think, created some ripples out here has been Jalen Harris, the transfer from Auburn.
Yes, sir. He told me his opportunity. He said he wants a guy to come in with some senior leadership. I think that a lot of the guys, they like being around me. I like being around them. I just want to be a helping hand to them and be as much of a leader as I can while I'm out here. It wasn't tough for me, I think, just because of the type of person I am. I think that I would try to lead by example. So it wasn't that tough. They all embraced me with open arms.
All right, we're going to see the tight end certainly involved in the Colorado offense in 2019 at our Mel Tuckers. We continue with Neil Welk, see you Buffs.com, to the defensive side. Interesting unit there. I think there's some depth at linebacker, some questions at defensive line, and certainly in the secondary. That might be for the first time in a long time where there's some big questions for the Buffaloes.
Yeah, Colorado's put a lot of guys into the NFL from the secondary over the last 4 or 5 years. This is a group, there's a lot of depth there. I think there's some talent, but there's not a lot of experience, and so that's been a very big point of emphasis this spring, is seeing who can go out there and play in the secondary.
Yeah, with some young players coming in via recruiting, of course. In fact, some of the starters might not even be there as we jump into the spring game on Saturday at 12 o'clock at Folsom Field, brought to us by UC Health. The linebacking core, there's some depth there, though, and some good athletes.
There's some good depth at linebacker, especially at the outside linebacker spot, and that's a position, again, where they're going to use their outside linebackers quite a bit, and what they're doing is they're playing 1 or 2 outside linebackers, almost lining them up as defensive ends. They'll run a lot of 4-man front. Technically, they run a 3-4 defense, but they're running a lot of 4-man front just because they want to get pressure on that quarterback. So those outside linebackers, there's a lot of depth right there.
Yeah, one athlete who might be coming into his own in 2019 after his junior college transfer year. Sometimes it takes guys a little while to kind of figure things out. Is Davion Taylor. He's an explosive athlete, and they're expecting big things from him in 2019.
That intensity, then being more physical. We're trying to be a physical team this year, trying to be the most physical team in the Pac-12, so that's what we've been working on and making the emphasis on that. I want to get physical myself, so I just try to, day by day, I just try to be more and more physical and just try to be the best I can. Well, since last year I learned more about a defense as a whole. Like, it's easier for me to learn it, but I'm still having difficulties. That's why I go to extra meetings and everything and try my best to learn the plays and just trying to know everything I can. Knowing that the intensity is going to be up this year, and by us having them all them now, we prepare for it. We knew what to expect, and then we came out here, we had to go full flow, and there was no room to backstep.
Certainly aren't many faster guys in the football field at linebacker position than Davion Taylor. You know, another guy who we know is going to be enormous because he was last year, Nate Landman. Neil and I were standing out of practice here 3 weeks ago. I looked at him and I said, Nate Landman is growing into a growing man at this point in time.
Yeah, 53 is going to see a lot of time. He's going to make a lot of tackles, and guys on the other team are going to see a lot of number 53 as well. Nate's had a good spring camp, and the thing that they like about Nate is he got a good grasp of the defense. He knows how to make the calls already, and he's directing that defense out there.
He's got the brain for it. He's always had the instinct for it, but you can see him physically growing now in his second season, so he's bigger and stronger, and he's going to be a big part of that. Nu'umatufalo is a guy that's always been intriguing to me. His career's been a little bit up and down. He seems to be evolving into a player they seem to like.
Yeah, they like him, and the thing is he's got the right size and the strength and the body to play that outside linebacker spot, especially against the run. And he's shown the ability to get to the passer. He can put his hand on the ground, play that 3-point stance from the linebacker spot, get to the quarterback. He can also play against the run. And I think he's a guy that his senior year, he's really excited about it. He knows this is it, and he's talked about having a good senior year.
Yeah, just a few days ago, we caught up with the former NJ Fowler.
Yes, sir. I mean, at the end of the year, your senior year, you want to really embrace everything, and pretty much the way I see it is be a sponge and absorb everything that I can learn and just apply it to the next level and on the field. Oh, I love it. I mean, that's the way football is played. There's only one way it's played, and it's violent, relentless to the ball, and, I'm really excited to be able to see this team build up to that physicality. It is different. Nate Landman's doing a good job of taking over that spot. This is going to be his defense for however long he'll be here, and I'm excited to see that happen.
We talk about all those linebackers. Rick Gamboa was one of those guys that in college athletics seems like they're around for about 8 years. It seems strange not seeing number 32 out there.
I tell you what, I look out there and I say, well, wait a minute, where's Gamboa? He's been here as long as I've been here. For the last 4 years, he was always out there, and now all of a sudden he's not. And even Ross Ells said it's a little bit different in the meeting rooms now without Rick Gamboa.
Yeah, he was a great Buffalo, of course. Let's move to the defensive line now for Colorado. That unit, I think there are some questions about. Maybe a little bit of thin for spring ball leading into the spring game, I would think.
Yeah, they've had some depth issues there. A couple of guys have gotten dinged up, but they've got some guys coming in that I think are going to come in. A couple of JUCO guys and some true freshmen that are going to come in and challenge right away. But right now, we're seeing some good performances, especially from a guy, Jalen Sammy, who was a gray shirt guy. Didn't practice a lot last year because he had a knee injury.
Yep.
Spent a lot of time in the weight room. Added a lot of muscle and lost about 50 pounds. And he's had a heck of a camp so far at that nose spot.
That would seem counterintuitive. He lost weight but gained weight in the process. He's growing into, speaking of full-grown man, he is a full-grown man. We caught up with him a while ago.
I feel amazing. I feel well prepared and just getting my technique ready and just coming out to play my first game in college football. So I'm learning a lot of next level technique, defense. Coach Dunbar is teaching us how to install a defense and how to just know everyone else's position and just so that we all are on the same page, same mindset, so we can play fast and play physical. You got to be relentless no matter every play you get and come out, take a break. And we're just going to be relentless and subbing in everybody, just having everyone just come in and give their all, 110%. If you fail 110%, you know.
You know, one area we haven't talked about where there is zero experience, essentially, is the running back position for the Colorado Buffaloes. They've had 3 state 1,000-yard rushers, twice by Phillip Lindsay, Trayvon McMillan last year, and right now, some pretty talented guys, Neil, but we know nothing about them, really.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the guy with the most experience is Alex Fontenot, and I think he has about 15 total carries at the Division I ball. So, but it's a really talented group. They like their running backs. A couple of, along with Alex Fontenot, who's the only guy that has experience, Deion Smith, Jarrett Broussard, a couple of true freshmen, Jaron Mangum and Joe Davis. A lot of talent. They've been getting a lot of snaps. All those guys with the 1s and 2s. They like this bunch, and I think you're going to see this offense is going to use a couple of those guys when they get into fall camp.
Yeah, Darren Hagan the last few years, of course, had such experienced running backs. He's going to have to do some coaching going into 2019. All right, the specialists up to this point. They haven't done much with the returns, their implementation, all the things they've been going through. Haven't worked a lot of that. That's still up in the air. I think there's some capable guys back there, but the punter and kickers seem to be really set.
Punter and kicker set. Alex Kinney is having a great camp. He has kicked, up around 48 to 50 yards in all the scrimmages, just averaged right up in there. The one thing they want to make sure with Alex Kinney this year, don't tackle anybody.
That's right. Broken collarbone last year.
Don't tackle anybody. Just let the other guys do that. But Alex is having a great camp. James Stefano, the kicker, hit a 50-yard field goal in the last scrimmage, has looked really good all camp, has been very accurate, big leg, and so I think they feel very comfortable in that regard.
Yeah, there certainly are some positive vibes around this team. They've got a phenomenal schedule in 2019. The non-conference games, Colorado State, Nebraska at home, Air Force at home before you jump into a great Pac-12 slate. By the way, get those season tickets at CUBuffs.com or 303-49 Buffs. Very challenging schedule.
Great schedule. I mean, and I was just chatting with Rick George here a few weeks ago, and he was saying this is as good a schedule going clear back to the 80s and 90s when Bill McCartney was loading up his schedule with big-time teams all the time. This is as good a home schedule as you're going to get in college football these days. This is a great schedule and be worth watching.
And you think of the Pac-12 with the rotation they do, you drop off Oregon State and Cal, you gain Stanford and Oregon. Not bad.
Yeah, a couple of top 20 teams right there, and have a chance to see those guys this year.
All right, Saturday, what are you hoping to see from the Buffaloes in their spring game?
You know what I want to see is I want to see them finish strong. I want to see them come out and have that intensity and the tempo and all the things that they've been talking about in camp. And I want to see them play physical. Mel Tucker has talked about that every day in practice. He wants those guys to play physical. He wants them to strike somebody. And I think you're going to see that because this is the last chance for these players to make an impression before fall camp begins. So I think that's what I want to see.
It's been a very good spring camp for Mel Tucker in year number 1. Again, it all culminates on Saturday at 12 o'clock. From 12 to 2, the Buffaloes have their annual spring showcase, as it's called, presented by UC Health. We will have the broadcast on the Colorado Football Network beginning at 12 noon. Gary Barnett, Mike Pritchard, yours truly. Always follow Neil's coverage at CUBuffs.com. A lot of excitement in 2019 for the Buffaloes as we put a wrap on spring ball on the Buffalo Stampede.